Hi, thank you for joining me today for another process video, and today I'm scrapping this photo of my two children and Leanne's daughter Sophie when we went to Disneyland Paris. This was a day where I was feeling a bit under the weather, so Leanne took them out and they went on Rock and Roller Coaster and had an absolutely amazing time. Honestly, my two, they're adrenaline junkies. They're only 6 at this point and they absolutely loved it. Uncle Rob not quite so much, but that's another story. So I'm starting off by creating a mixed media background. So I'm using Wilted Violet Distress Oxide Spray and just painting that onto this Tim Holtz rubber stamp to create these splodges, if you like, but they're controlled splotches, which is what I like. I'm using Basil White cardstock and the inks do soak into this ever so quickly, so you have to be quite determined on what you're doing. So next I'm coming in with Mowed Lawn to bring in some of the green from in the photos and going through this Vicky Bootin circle stencil. Obviously, with it being a roller coaster and having loop the loops, I wanted to bring the circle element into the mixed media a little bit. So just building up very small areas of this green, and each time just checking that I'm happy with the positioning and that the photo still looks okay with it. So next coming in with another Tim Holtz stencil and Chipped Sapphire to bring in the blues that are in the photo. And this is just tiny little splatters, and it's great for just introducing a small amount of colour when you don't want to bring in too much. So again, just moving the stencil around the page or around the area that I'm doing the mixed media to add the splotches exactly where I want them. And again, bringing the photo back just to check that I'm happy with it all. Want a little bit more here. And that's why it's important to keep bringing it back and keep checking. And now I want to bring a smaller amount of mixed media to the right hand side of the photo. So just drawing with that Wilted Violet spray, just using the nozzle to draw a patch and then watering it down. And I'm going to add other bits and pieces to that, so I'm not too concerned that you've got the line where I've added it. And now just adding some water on the left hand side to activate those oxides a little bit and blur things out so that there aren't any sharp lines there. So once that's dry, I'm going to come back in with this stencil and add some of the Chipped Sapphire to the right hand side and then the Mowed Lawn using the other stencil that I'd used on that left hand bit, just to keep everything similar so that it doesn't look like a detached piece of mixed media there. And again, adding some water just to activate the oxides and blend everything a little. Now that's all dry, I'm going to come in with some Ellie Studio word phrases. These are from the Daily Tabs stamp set. And this first one I think says this moment. I've used one that says this moment and one that says a good day. And I'm using both tea dye and dried marigold inks to add these to that section. It's just to bring some of those oranges in. Sophie's got some oranges on her cardigan and there's a little bit of orange in the background poster behind the kids by the Rock and Roller Coaster. I still can't believe that they loved it so much. They're absolutely fearless. So now coming in with that Chipped Sapphire, and this stamp says a good day. And you can see I'm not cleaning the stamp off in between because it gets covered nicely. You use up most of the ink when you're stamping with these words anyway, so it's absolutely fine just going over with different colours. Adding a few to that right hand section as well. And now I want to use a little star. So first of all, the Chipped Sapphire. I'm not going too crazy, just a few. And then the tea dye, which is just a softer orange. I didn't want it to be too bright. I really wanted that purple to stand out. And the Mowed Lawn is quite a bright green as well, so. And that's that. So now I'm coming in with this Darkroom Door stamp. I absolutely adore this. We've got these in the shop at Hey Little Magpie. It's a grid stamp and I'm just inking the very edge with black soot just to add a hint of this grid to the mixed media sections. And I add 3 little blocks on the left hand side and then just 1 on the right hand side. And as I say, just inking the very edges just to add a tiny bit of that stamp. don't want to bring too much black in, but of course there is black in the photo, so it really adds dimension to the colours when you bring black into it. So now coming in with my 49er Market papers, still trying to use up this Spectrum Sherbet collection, and the oranges and blues in this work really nicely with these photos. So just cutting a photo mat and tearing the edge here in the orange, and then coming in with the tealy blue and cutting another photo mat. And at first I think I'm going to do it vertically like this, but in the end it does, horizontally, but in the end I do add it vertically. So just weighing up my options here. Tearing the edge again, because I've got a torn edge on the orange. I just wanted to follow that through on the blue as well. And as I say, I think I'm going to add it that way, but then I do actually turn it round when I stick them down. So just very lightly distressing the edges of the orange, and then I can glue the photo to that and then decide what to do with the blue. Just using my wet glue as per usual. Still working my way through this one that I bought as a bit of a mistake. I'm struggling to get hold of the Nouveau Deluxe at the moment, so just making do with what I've got. So trimming the top of that piece, now I've decided to go this way round vertically on the layout, and I'm really happy with that. So I shall glue that piece down and then start embellishing. And you can see at the top of the screen I've got some of my labels. That's the LE Studio label stamp, and when I've got a bit of spare card and a bit of spare time, I just stamp some images and cut them out, and I've got them in a little pot, and then I can just pull out the colours that I think will work with the photos I'm working with. So here we've got Salvage Patina, which is the blue, and a Mowed Lawn one, which is the green, which I shall add here now. And again, it's just building up layers behind the photo, just adding a little bit of interest. And you can see I've also pulled out the 49er Market film strip pieces, and I'm just bringing one of those in now. This purple works perfectly with these photos. I thought I was going to use one of the smaller pieces. As you see there, I tried the smaller piece, but in fact this larger piece with 3 works really nicely. So just gluing that down to the back. I make a bit of a mistake. I must have moved it as I was adding the glue, so it's angled the wrong way, but I quickly switch that around when I turn it over. You don't need too much glue on these, just enough to anchor it down. So as you can see, just moving that. And this mat is really starting to build up nicely now. So I want to bridge that gap between the film strip at the bottom and the torn edge of the teal paper that we've got. So I'm creating a little tack using the orange. So just cutting the corners off, and then I shall punch a hole. Just checking that the sizing's right first. Yep, happy with that. So I'll use my single hole punch to punch a hole, and then I'll use my hole reinforcer punch to create a hole reinforcer ring in the lovely teal, just to tie those 2 colours together again there. That hole reinforcer punch comes in so handy. So adding some of my wax thread. This is just a peachy colour, a nice neutral, because I didn't want it to stand out too much, but I can't bear not putting something through the hole. And just tying a bow this time, because I don't want the thread to dangle around everywhere. I'm just trimming off the excess. And now coming in with one of these new wood circles from JD3DPrint. I absolutely love these. This one says fun. They're 28mm, so slightly bigger than the flare badges. That's one of our flare badges from Hey Little Magpie there as well. And they work really nicely on a layout together. So bringing in one of the chipboard pieces from 49er Market Spectrum Sherbet there, that orange chipboard piece. And now just going through to see if there's anything else that I can find in the ephemera. And I find this little label piece, and it just brings that orange in nicely to the right hand side of the photo there. So again, adding that to the photo cluster. And now bringing in one of the JD3DPrint wood cameras, and that balances really nicely with that fun word that we've got on the left hand side as well. And I find a little yellow stamp which is just brings a bit of interest in. So I add that to that left hand side as well underneath the flare badge. So I'm happy with that mat now, so I'm going to glue all that down in position so that I can then start gluing all the woodies and things in as well. That tag wasn't glued down, so it was only when I was adding the glue that I realised. So just having to add a bit more to that. Making sure everything's straight and glued down, and then, as I say, I can start adding glue to these wood pieces. And that flare badge does actually have a foam pad on the back. We used to sell them with foam pads, we don't anymore, but sometimes it's nice to have that extra dimension, and with these wood pieces the layout can cope with a little bit more dimension. So just checking that I'm happy with how those are going, and then I can glue this chipboard piece down and then the wood piece on top. I really like that cluster there. I do add something else to it as well, because you know, never quite finished, are you? So now coming in with these lovely alphabet soup puffy stickers from Doodlebug. These are new to Hey Little Magpie and they're absolutely gorgeous. I'm using the colour Swimming Pool because that just works really nicely with these. There is also a lilac, which I was tempted by but decided to stick with the blue because there's quite a lot of lilac in the layout already with the mixed media. So now I just want to add a little bit of stitching for a bit more texture. So I'm going to add some crosses onto that chipboard frame just to hold it in place. I mean, it's glued down anyway, but this is just a visual way of holding it in place. So just punching my holes with my needle. It's a little bit harder at the top here because I'm going through the acetate of that film strip. And then I shall just stitch it through. I won't make you watch all of that, but just creating some crosses all the way around. And now I decided I wanted to bring some more of the orange up to the top of the layout, so just creating a tab using my tab punch. Again, these are available at Hey Little Magpie, and adding that to the top of the page, just there in with those labels, and that works really nicely. Just scuffing the edges with my nails. I didn't want to make it too distressed, but just adding a little bit of texture there, breaking up the paper fibres. And there it goes, just nicely under that corner there. I try it on top of the label, but decide it's definitely better underneath. So now I'm going in with a Carpe Diem Simple Stories sticker book. It's a Disney sticker book, and just seeing if there's anything I can add. Straight away I find that sticker that said rides, so I add that to the tag at the bottom, and then I find this one that says happy moments, so that gets added to that little cluster in the top, in the bottom left, and then this lovely blue one that says go see ride, so it works nicely with this picture, and that just again gets nestled in on that left hand cluster, and that circle works perfectly with the other circles we've got going on there. Then I find a little one because I wanted to add something else to the right hand side next to that camera, and this just says wow, and then a little tab at the top that says happy, because they certainly wear that. So now coming in with my date stamp, and I'll just add this onto a scrap of white card, and that will be cut and added to the tag at the top of the page. 2014, I cannot believe it was May 2014. It still feels like yesterday. So gluing that piece down to the top there, and we're very nearly done now. Just checking what else I want, and I want to add a bit more stitching at the top here. So just a couple of crosses in that same peach coloured wax twine. Again, just I won't make you watch it. I've poked the holes and then I just stitch through. And there we have it. Now I want to just add a tiny bit of journaling underneath the title Rockin' Roller Coaster. I just add you loved it. And finally I'm going to come in with some white paint, just cover up my photo and add some tiny little white splatters all over the mixed media parts. It doesn't show up an awful lot, but it does show up better on the wood and the acetate film strip. So it was worth doing. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, something a bit different for me, a lot of mixed media this time. and I shall see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.